Welcome to another episode of the Emetophobia-Free podcast. Today we are joined by the lovely Shannon. Hello, Shannon.
Hi.
Shannon is a coach, a licensed Thrive program coach based down in Brentwood in Essex in the UK, and she specialises in emetophobia because she is an ex-emetophobe herself.
I am.
So Shannon's here today to tell us all about her story and share with us her journey through emetophobia and past emetophobia and any top tips that she's got now that she's a coach. So over to you really, Shannon. Where do you want to begin?
So I will probably go back to the start of my journey because I actually didn't realise I had emetophobia for the longest time. I didn't know what it was, but I can see now that I do know about it, the signs fairly early on. So through primary school, there wasn't really much to report there. I was a fairly, I would say, aware child. I sort of was very, would always watch what was going on with things and like to have control over certain things, but it didn't really show itself in any strong ways. It then started to show a little bit when I went to secondary school, and I think it was because it was such a big change for me. So I've seen that pattern throughout my life whenever there's a big change, and I know now that was the feeling out of control.
Yes.
I didn't know how to cope with that at the time. And I went from a tiny village primary school where there were 50 children in the whole school to a big secondary school with over 1,000 children there. And it was massively overwhelming for me. And in the first year, I went to the school nurse 7 times with a stomach ache. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. And the nurse obviously started to get a bit worried for me, and she mentioned something to my form tutor, who then sat me down and was like, "Is everything okay? Other children being nice to you," things like that. And I was like, yeah, like there's nothing wrong. Like, I just get an upset stomach. I don't really, I'm absolutely fine. Because I wasn't registering that it was the anxiety and stress of everything that was giving me the upset stomach. So I went to the doctor. This was when I was sort of 11, 12, and they basically said there's nothing wrong with you. And at that point I had a little light bulb then and thought, oh well, the doctor says there's nothing wrong with me, I must be fine. So I kind of then, for the rest of my secondary school experience, was mostly okay because I got comfortable with the school. I felt back in control of things. But when there was any mention of someone feeling sick, I would panic. And I would make an excuse, leave the room. But I didn't think that was particularly strange for some reason. And I just didn't tell anyone about it. It was just this little thing that I had. I didn't think it was anything. There was something wrong with it particularly. I just knew that I didn't like it. I needed to stay away from it and just remove myself from any situation. So that was sort of throughout secondary school. So it did affect me in some ways, but it wasn't a massive factor for me at the time because I was mostly happy in the school and comfortable that I could get out of situations if I needed to. But then I went to university, and again, massive change. It was all new and scary. I was in my first relationship at the time, and there was just so many big changes happening for me. And I think one thing looking back that really made it worse when I was at university, so I also decided, which again looking back was me trying to control the situation, I said I'm basically only going to university if I can live at home and commute there. I just outright refused. I basically said I'm not going if I have to live on a site with other people, and it was
Yeah.
probably in my head, the sort of drinking culture at university, all of those things,
Absolutely.
being
Yeah.
in confined spaces with other people. I just was absolutely adamant. I'm living at home, and if I didn't get into the university that was close to me in London, I wouldn't have gone. Luckily, I did get into
Right.
that university. um, but I really limited how much I went there. The train journey used to make me panic. I would get up there and be so flustered that I would sit through one lecture and then I would almost run home to
Yeah.
sort of my safe space. And I think it actually made me worse in that time because I was on my own so much, and I
Okay.
didn't realize that then my mind was just, running away with me with all of these negative scenarios, and actually not having that distraction of other people around me all of the time was making me much worse. I was just able to sit and catastrophize about all of these situations,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I would just take myself away from so many things. And I really did start to isolate myself in those few years at university. And I sat through exams sort of panting, feeling sick, thinking, it was a wonder that I managed to get through university. I did get a
Yeah.
degree in the end, but
Yeah.
it was a real
Hard.
struggle for me. Yeah. And but through it all, I still didn't realize that I had emetophobia. I thought there was something physically wrong with me
Yeah.
because I felt sick pretty much all the time. I would wake up feeling unwell and it would just go on throughout the day. And I would also, every sort of month or two, have these episodes in the night where I'd wake up panicking, thinking I was going to be sick, and it would take ages to calm me back down again, which probably were like panic attacks, which I didn't realize what they were at the time. But again, I thought this was something physical wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kept going back to the doctors and saying, you need to find out what
Yes.
is wrong with me.
Yes.
Like, and I had years of tests, constantly they were sending me for blood tests and ultrasounds and just thing after thing, because I'm the kind of person that won't accept like that there's nothing wrong. If I
Yes.
know in myself that there's something not right, I will keep fighting till I find
Yes.
out what it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
So I kept going back and back and back, and every test was coming back. I was absolutely fine. There was
Yeah.
nothing in my bloods, absolutely fine. And in the end, they started to say, we think you might have IBS, because they diagnose that when they can't find
Yes.
anything else.
Yes.
I still wasn't happy with that. I said, this is too extreme what I'm experiencing to be IBS. And there was an example where I went on holiday, which obviously for people with emetophobia, they'll know that that can be a really big deal. Like, it's
Huge.
scary, the flight, just everything that's involved with going on holiday. And I'd obviously built it up so much beforehand. And it was just a holiday with my family. It was to Italy. It should have been a lovely experience, something that I should have been really excited for. But I just couldn't be happy or excited to be there. And I built it up so much. I felt sick from the time, I even knew about the holiday to going there. And when I actually got there, I had these pains so bad. I was saying to my family, I'm really unwell. There's something
Yeah.
really, really wrong with me. And I think on the second day, I had some kind of like episode in the night where I'd obviously just built up this anxiety so much that the physical pain, I'd almost built
Yeah.
this sort of stress knot
Yes. Yes.
in my stomach, and they had to call an emergency doctor out in the middle of the night because no one could work out what was wrong with me. I've
Right.
I've never been in pain like that, and knowing now that I created that
Yeah.
is mind blowing, that our brains can do this, which is why I thought it was physical.
Yes.
It didn't even occur to me that that was
No.
something that could be
No.
created by myself. So I was given this injection. They thought it was gastroenteritis, something like that. And I did start to feel a bit better after the injection because obviously, probably placebo. I thought this doctor's told me this is what's wrong
Yes.
with me. He's
Yeah.
given me an injection for it, so I'm going to start to feel better now. And
Yep.
I did start to feel better, but I had to stay in bed. I couldn't eat for the next day while everyone
Yeah.
else went out on the pizza making course, and I was feeling sorry for myself in the hotel and then just flew home again. And I thought, how is this possible that, this
Yeah.
should be this amazing experience and, I'm too unwell to do any of these things, which is why I just was pleading with the doctors saying,
Yes.
find out, please, what is wrong with me.
Yes.
And so I still went back after they said it was IBS. And that is when they finally, after years, started asking the right questions, saying, are you anxious? Is there anything you're really stressed about? And obviously, it started slowly coming out. They were building a picture that, yes, I was an extremely anxious
Yes.
person.
Yes.
Um, and they didn't say the word emetophobia, and I still at that point didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But they referred me for therapy at that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
And that was one of the first light bulb moments because I thought, if they're right and this is mental, then I can overcome this.
Nice.
Straight away, I was like, I'd been hoping this whole time that they would find something wrong with me and give me some magic pill that would
Yes.
make me better, but giving me the information that actually it was in my power to overcome it, I was like, well, this is great. I'm going to do everything now
Yeah.
and go down this channel. So they referred me for therapy.
That's brilliant. Sorry to interrupt you there, but
Yeah.
that's a lovely, refreshing take on it, and very different to me because our stories are very similar. I also went down the doctor's route, but when I was told it was anxiety, I was furious.
Really?
Furious because I thought, I'm not doing this to myself. This isn't something
Yeah.
that I can do. I was the same as you. I had all these physical symptoms. I was thinking, your brain can't do this. That's
Yeah.
something is physically wrong with me, and I got really upset and I got really mad.
Mm,
I now know it was massive social anxiety because I was thinking, if I've got to admit to everybody that for years
mm,
I've been feeling this unwell and had test after test, and actually it was something mental, I saw that as some sort of failure or a
mm,
fault or a blame. All social anxiety, all massively unhelpful. So to hear that
mm,
you processed it so powerfully, that's
mm,
brilliant.
yeah.
Just before you carry on with your story, you were
Mm.
talking about your family, and you lived with them all through university, and this is when it really ramped up, and you were having these
Mm.
panic attacks. What was their take on it?
So I didn't share most of it. No
Yeah,
one
yeah,
really knew the
yes,
full extent.
yes,
I think my mum knew the most because she was the one that I would wake up in the middle of the night when I was
yeah,
feeling sick.
yeah,
And she actually did help me in those times because I think in her heart she knew that there was nothing physically wrong with me,
okay,
and she would be fairly stern with me and tell me like, this is enough now. She
right,
was like,
yes,
let's stop this now. And that in the moment did help me because it
right,
wasn't colluding with
yes,
my, oh, it's going to be okay, like there is something
yes,
wrong. But
yeah,
she was very like, no, we're
yes,
not doing this now. So
yes,
that actually in the
that's
moment
good.
and looking back did really help me. But I didn't share with anyone on a daily basis my how unwell I
Yeah,
felt
you
every
felt,
day. They did obviously see it in the fact that I, didn't eat loads. I was very picky with things. I would avoid social situations, but I just did my best to hide it from
brilliant.
everyone. And looking back, I don't really know why. I can't really
It's
explain at the time.
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because again, a very very similar story, and I think looking back, when I try and understand why I didn't tell anybody, it becomes so normalized.
Mm,
It was just my experience every day. That's just how I was. So
yeah.
I didn't feel like there was anything to tell
Mm,
almost. I was suffering a lot every day, but because I'd suffered a lot for years, it was like, well,
yeah.
when do you find the time to tell somebody? Because you think there's
Yeah.
nothing to tell. This is just me.
Yeah.
So that's
Exactly.
that's how I looked at it. But everybody's
Yeah.
slightly different, aren't they?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think when they really started to see it and realize, because I was so adamant there was something physical wrong with me,
Mm.
they just thought that as well, and
Yeah.
they obviously wanted to do everything in their power to help me, so they would, encourage me to see this doctor and do this.
Yeah.
And I think it got to a point where it got progressively worse in those 3 years when I was at university, and towards the end, I didn't really want to go out and do anything. I
Yeah.
wasn't really leaving the house. And I remember I went on a walk with my dad, and we only got sort of 30 seconds up the road. And I said, I could hear like coughing last night. Like, did you have a cough or something? And he was like, oh, like, yeah, like I like had like loads of like mucus and stuff, and it like made me sick because I was like coughing so much. And I stopped. I started like sobbing. I freaked out and I just walked straight back home. I couldn't cope in
Yeah.
that situation. And he was baffled, like
Yes.
so shocked. And he came back and he was like, what did I say? Like, what's wrong? And
Yes.
I think that's when it like started to click for him that I was really struggling with this. And then my parents were like, right, let's help you, let's do everything
Yeah.
we can. And that was at the point where I was starting to realize it was mental and not
Right.
physical.
Right.
So I think, yeah, we all started to get on the same page then. But it was years before that because I didn't realize what it was, they didn't either, and they
Yes.
just kind of accepted that that was just me and my
Yes.
sort of, I had to be in control of certain situations, otherwise I wasn't going. And
Yeah.
they just accepted and lived around that because
Yeah.
they wanted to make sure I was as comfortable and as happy as possible. So,
Yeah.
but if they obviously had known anything about it, they would have probably told me things to do differently.
Definitely.
But because I didn't know, they didn't know, yeah, it
Yeah.
was all just, yeah.
Just muddle through, isn't it? So when
Yeah.
did you finally hear the word emetophobia then? When did that moment
So it
arise?
was when I went to therapy. So I was referred by the NHS for CBT. So it was at that point that when I fully explained it to the therapist, they started to talk to me about emetophobia.
Oh, so they
And
knew.
yeah, they did actually. And I was quite, yeah, taken aback that they understood.
Yeah.
And when they were saying stuff to me, I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
this is what I'm thinking and feeling. But I just couldn't get on with CBT.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel logical to me. It was like too much, talking about the
Yes.
sickness, and
Yes.
I just felt upset every session, and came away from it not any better,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
But I was still very adamant that I was going to overcome it. So then I
Good.
tried the next thing, and I went to a private therapist, and I thought, let's try this. But again, it was just talking about everything negative in my
Yes.
life, and
Yeah.
I came away crying from
Yeah.
most sessions. And I was like, is this just a process? Am I going to suddenly start to feel better at some point? I don't know. But
Yeah.
I got through enough sessions and I was like, something isn't sitting right with this either. I don't think this is how I'm going to overcome it.
What kind of therapy was that, Shannon? Was it just talking therapy or?
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
talking therapy.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I was willing to try
Anything. Yeah.
anything at that
Absolutely.
point.
Yep.
So I was ready to go on to the next thing, but it was at that point that actually my mum found out about the Thrive program because
Right.
she works in a school and someone had come in to talk about how to overcome phobias, anxiety, all these different things.
Fantastic.
And she mentioned this to me. I actually remember like the car journey we were on, like when she
Yes.
started telling me about it. I think you remember those like important things in your life, don't you?
Yes.
And she said, you know, these people came in to talk at my school, and I've looked it up online, and it really sounds like what you have. And there's so many testimonials saying that people have been cured from it. Like, I really think you should look it up. Um, just see what you think, see if you think it would help you.
Yeah.
So I was obviously like straight away, okay,
Yeah.
amazing, let's look it up, you know. And I think it was that evening I talked to my parents. I was like, I need to go for this. Like, this
Yeah.
sounds amazing. It does sound too good to be true, to be honest, which I think everyone thinks at the start. But I was at that point where I was like, let's
Let's
try
try
it.
it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I found a coach who was local to me, said like, how soon can I start? Basically, like, let's go
Yeah.
for it. And literally from session one, session two, I was just, that was it.
Yeah.
The light bulb moments were just didn't stop from then. And I
Brilliant.
was obsessed with the book.
Yes.
I just couldn't get enough. I like every night I was reading it, and I was going to tell my family, like, I can't believe this. Like, this
Yes.
is like, I've been thinking this way the whole time, and this, and they were probably like, you know, confused what was going on with me, and thinking, yeah, this is amazing, really.
Yes.
And yeah, literally from session two onwards, that was it. I
Brilliant.
knew that I was over it.
Brilliant.
And obviously, I kept doing the work. I went through the whole program and I implemented it. But as soon as I knew what I was doing in my own brain, and I fully understood it, it was that logic that I'd been
Yes.
searching for this
Yes.
whole time.
Yes.
I just needed someone to give me that information, because I am a very logical, sort of fact driven person. I was always very like mathematical at school, things like that. I need the facts to back
Yes.
things up. And
Yes.
obviously, the program gives you all of that, it's
Yep.
backed up,
Yep.
you know. So straight away, I just knew that this is it. And it's just, I've been cured since then, you know. It's, I've just never
Fabulous.
looked back. And that was 6 or 7 years ago now.
Fantastic.
And it is just, it's mind blowing how different life is now. And
Yeah.
part of me almost can't relate to that person, sort of, you know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I can't believe I was in that place
Yes.
compared to where I am now, and that my brain was creating that the whole
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Um, because now I can just live life free from it,
Yeah.
and knowing how much better that is why I became a coach. Because as soon as I went through the program, you just want to tell everyone about it, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yes.
Like, you
Yes.
don't need to live your life
No.
like that with any, you know, phobia, anxiety. Like, there's so much more and better out there, and just so
Yes.
much life to live. And
Yes.
knowing that and going through it firsthand, you just want to help other people so much.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that is why I've trained now to become a coach, which
Which
is
is,
amazing.
it is absolutely amazing. It really is. Just want to pick up on something you said earlier. You were saying, the CBT was very much talking about the sickness and you didn't come away
Mm,
feeling any better. And the same with the talking therapy. It was all very, talking about all the negative things and trying to find a past trauma that kicked all this off and all
mm,
that kind of stuff. Difficult to do, isn't it? Hard
yeah,
work.
yeah,
And when you haven't got that logic underneath it and you're kind of thinking, well, is this just going to cure me? Is talking about it just going to make
mm,
me feel better? Is that
yeah,
how our brain works? Is that how our mind works? Let's just hope. You feel more and more powerless every time, don't you? You're thinking, well, I'm
mm,
not feeling any better. I'm not getting any better.
yeah,
And the difference with this program is that you have the evidence, you have the logic, and you're in the driver's seat. So you're not kind of going, well, I hope this will help, because you're going, well, this will help because here's what's going on for you psychologically, backed up by research. This is what you have to do differently. And
Exactly.
that's the empowering side to it, isn't it? And why, when you finish the program and you are over your emetophobia, you're so passionate about it, which then comes across in testimonials. And then when people who really are suffering, as you and I were, you listen to those and go, well, that's too good to be true. You can't possibly completely cured. And you go, you can. Yes, you absolutely can, because you do it. It's not something happening to you. It's not something that, is someone fixing you, or a manual fixing you, or even a coach fixing you. That's not our job, right? You do it for yourself. You cure yourself. And that's the important bit. That's the powerful bit, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you know now that you're never going to create it again.
No, exactly that. And as soon as you understand that, you realize so many things. And even telling this story now, I can look back and you can pick out and find so many examples and realize what you were doing in your own mind to create these things. And then giving yourself that power and knowledge means that you never have to go back to that space again.
No.
And I know 100% that will never be me again.
No.
So yeah, it is the most empowering thing ever.
It is. It's so liberating. I was talking to one of my recent clients, and she said that she started to dream internally. And I know people watching this who's never not been through the program will go, what do you mean internally? In a nutshell, when you have emetophobia, a lot of your beliefs are that other things have power over you, or things are happening to you. So, in Shannon's case, it's something physical happening to me. So I was looking for this external cause, something physical. It's something wrong with my stomach. It's something wrong with my whatever else it might be. Looking outside of you for the reason that you're feeling the way that you are. Internally flips that on its head, and you look inside of you and you go, okay, so what am I doing? What's my perspective? What's my belief in this area? How am I thinking in this area? What am I thinking habits? Am I a brooder? Do I like to overthink things? So you look at what you are doing and you become internal in your thinking. And when you start to dream internally, I was thinking, well, that is a telltale sign that, your beliefs have solidly changed there, because your whole outlook on life changes. It's not just getting over emetophobia. It's not just like that one area of your life gets better. It's across the board, because you have this new perspective on all of your experiences, all of your emotions, everything that's going on in life. You realize that you are creating or responding to in a certain way, and you do have control over that. And that's massively powerful, isn't it? So when you really wrap your head around that, start to implement that, you then feel so much more powerful in all areas of life. So was that the experience for you? Because obviously you overcame your emetophobia. How did other aspects of life change for you?
Yeah, 100%. So I was 21 when I went through the program, which I'd say is an amazing time to overcome it, because I could live the rest of my life free from it. And, I'm going through the program now with some teenagers, and I say to them, this is an amazing time for you, because there are people who have been through the program. We've got examples of people in their 80s, and they've had to live their whole life with it. So to be free from it at such a young age is amazing. Absolutely. Because I've now been able to spend my 20s having the best time. I have built a business which has become massively successful, and I know I wouldn't have been able to do that. That's involved me showing up on social media all the time, showing my face, being in contact with lots of customers. And I know in myself that I just would not have been able to create that in the space I was in sort of 10 years ago. I have been on amazing holidays and adventures and done so many things that I just know I would have struggled with before. And to do all of those free from emetophobia and anxiety and just fully be in the moment and enjoy them all has just been incredible. And you just feel so much more grateful for everything,
Yes.
because you don't take for granted any of those experiences anymore. You know, every time I go on holiday now, I have in my head that how much I would have struggled before, and knowing that I'm just free now, and
Yes.
you just feel this happiness and gratitude and warmth just every time. And
Yes.
it makes me emotional thinking about it when I do
Yeah.
these things, that I can just be so happy at the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
And so yeah, I've done so many things that I wouldn't have been able to do. And I know that, you know, even if things do come up in my life, that I'll be able to cope with them. And
Yeah.
that was the main thing before. My coping skills were just not there at all.
Yes.
I was able to, you know, I thought I was able to control most aspects of my life, and you know, my desire for control was massively high, but I couldn't cope if
Yes.
anything went wrong. So
Yes.
knowing now that I can, whether it's, you know, something not related to sickness, or if it is, and you know, I've had examples of that. I mean, I still actually haven't been sick, which actually was one of the things that used to baffle me, because I wasn't sick throughout my teenage years. I was probably last sick when I was about 8 years old. So I was like, why am I so scared of this,
Yeah.
when, you know, it's not an everyday occurrence? Like, I couldn't actually understand in my own mind why
Yes.
that was happening. But now, you know, I've had experiences, you know, someone was sick in the bathroom right next to where I was sleeping, and I heard it, and I got up, checked that they were okay. And this was like in the middle of the night, and I got back into bed, and my thought process was, I actually feel really hungry now. And I was like, because it was like the middle of the night, and I was like, and I actually just smiled to myself, thinking, I can't believe that I feel
Yeah.
hungry. I'm not panicking that that just happened,
Yes.
and I'm calm enough that my body's registered that it's the middle of the night and I haven't eaten in a while and I feel hungry.
Yes.
So that I was like, I wanted to like text my family at 3 a.m. saying like, can you believe that I've just like processed this so well? Um, and there was another example. I like over sort of Christmas and New Year, I got some kind of bug.
Yep.
Me and my boyfriend were both really ill in bed for like 10 days.
Yeah.
And there was one day I felt really, really sick, and I thought I was going to be sick. And I just like sat on the bathroom floor, and my boyfriend came and sat with me, and I was just like breathing, and we were just like sitting on the floor laughing together and
Yeah.
joking. And I was absolutely fine. There was no panic. And if I'd been sick, I would have been absolutely fine. And
Brilliant.
just experiencing that and knowing that I'm fine through it
Yes.
all is just,
Yes.
yeah, it's amazing to
Yes.
have these experiences now and know that
Yeah.
I can cope with them all. And you know, the good experiences are even better, and
Yes.
the bad experiences aren't as bad. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Spot on. Love that. So you were talking then about, the fact that you haven't been sick, but you did mention growing up that you were picky about certain things. You didn't eat a lot. So you had safety seeking and avoidance behaviors. You
Mm,
avoided crowded places. You did all of these things. And I think one of the main barriers for people to overcome emetophobia, and it was certainly one for me, was I believed
mm,
it was keeping me safe. I
yeah.
believed that all of those safety seeking things, all of that avoidance, all of that, over controlling of things, limiting my food,
Mm,
restricting all that eating, that was what was stopping me from being sick. So I couldn't let go of those things, because if I let go of
mm,
those things, then I'm going to be sick. So
mm-hmm.
the fact that you haven't been, and I take it that you've dropped all of those safety seeking and avoidance behaviors now,
Yeah.
true testament to the fact that, that isn't keeping you safe. What it is doing is keeping
Mm,
you in this place of anxiety, in this place of stress, and this place of uncertainty, and this place of powerlessness. That's what it's
yeah.
doing. It's not
Yeah.
keeping you safe from being sick. I have
Mm-hmm.
personally been sick a few times since,
Mm,
from a bug from my darling daughter, and during childbirth with my darling daughter. It's there's a theme here. But, you know, I've since dropped all of my safety-seeking behaviours. I've been over it slightly longer than you now. And I've never been sick from not overly washing my hands. I've never been sick from food, and I've never had food poisoning. All these things I used to worry about on a daily basis and try and avoid on a daily basis never happened, and I don't do any of those things anymore. And it's just so important that if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, well, that's good, but, you know, I might be sick. There's two people sat in front of you here going, actually, we did all of these things, really quite extreme things to try and protect ourselves, and we've got rid of all of those things now, and we're still not sick.
Exactly.
You know, just like the people around you, because if the people that are listening to this, if you look at the non-emetophobes around you, they don't do these safety-seeking behaviours, they don't have these avoidance behaviours. It's rare that you're sick. It's rare that anybody's sick. It's a rare occurrence.
Exactly.
So what you don't want to do is limit yourself and limit your life based on this fear of something that is incredibly rare anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
fabulous. So, started coaching now. Do you have any words of wisdom, top tips, any, I don't know, nuggets of information that you want to give to anybody watching who's considering starting the program, whether that's by themselves, just with the manual, or the online manual, or with a coach? What would your advice be to somebody in your position a few years ago?
So my biggest advice would be just go for it. You won't regret it as long as you put the effort into it and believe that you can overcome it. And I like to tell people that I'm not special. There's nothing different or special about you or me or anyone who's overcome it. So if I can, why can't anybody else?
Absolutely.
So if you are considering it at all, I would 100% just go fully for it, really commit and put everything into it. And even if you've gone through things before and they haven't worked, because I think that's why a lot of people are hesitant and they think, well, this is just another thing that I'm going to put my energy into and I'll feel deflated and more powerless after if it doesn't work for me. Watch all the testimonials, you know, listen to all of these podcasts. We are real people and this has changed our life 100%. So go into it, forget about all of those other things and go into this really believing and commit yourself fully, and you can overcome it.
Brilliant.
That is what I'd say. Fabulous.
Really good point. The point of believing that you can do it is incredibly powerful and important, because if you liken it to a marathon, let's say you stay on the starting line of a marathon and you may have put the training in and you may have all the right gear and those energy drinks and the fancy trainers and everything else, but if you are stood on that marathon start line thinking, I can't do this, this is too far for me, it's going to be too hard, I can't run a marathon, people like me don't run marathons, there's something different with me, I'm not going to be able to do it, they can all do it, these people around me, but I'm not going to be able to do it. Sooner or later, you're going to talk yourself out of it. Sooner or later, you're probably going to quit, okay, and sit down and think, okay, yeah, I told you, my feet, I've got blisters, can't do it. My knees are swollen, can't do it. Whatever else, that belief that I'm going to run this marathon, I'm going to cross the finish line, even if I have to crawl on my hands and knees for the last few miles, I will get across that finish line. That's the mentality you have to have. It's sort of come hell or high water, I am going to live a life without emetophobia and I won't stop until I reach it. If you've got that belief in yourself, if you have that commitment, there's nothing stopping you, there's nothing in your way. If you're still uncertain, you need to build that belief for yourself. You need to look back across your life and think, right, when have I put energy and effort into things and achieved them? So let's find the evidence that I can achieve things that I put my mind to, and that there's nothing in my way. And then once you've got that belief, then really go for it, because it will hold you back if you don't believe that you can achieve emetophobia-free.
Yeah,
I would say.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much, Shannon. It's been amazing. It's been amazing to hear your story.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Good. And hopefully we'll have you back on at some stage to talk about maybe a part of the programme or something else emetophobia related that you would like to share. But for now, have a fantastic day and thank you so much for spending the time to be here with us.
Thank you so much.